So are you shy about your looks? Are you shy about taking pictures and stuff? If are you not sure if anybody really thinks if you're hot or if you're cute? Well, it's very possible that you may be missing some of the signs that show that you're actually a lot more attractive, a lot cuter, a lot hotter than you think you are. And so today I'm going to go over 7 signs that show that you are hotter than you think that you are. So sign number 1, let's talk about it. So people stare at you or look up when you walk past them. So people look at people who they're attracted to. And so this doesn't necessarily mean that somebody likes you or that they're into you or something, but if you're attractive, like people look at things that are unique, that are different, right? And for men, at least, if they see somebody that's attractive to them, they'll look at them. And so anytime you see a guy that turns his head and looks over at you, it's probably that he's attracted to you. That doesn't mean he's going to approach you or that anything's going to come from it, but it does mean that maybe you haven't noticed as much that you're more attractive than you actually think that you are. So here's my suggestion. If someone looks at you, look at them back and smile, right? That will make you even more attractive. It's really attractive when people smile. People like people smiling. Just a suggestion, look back at them and smile. Could start up a conversation if you're looking for one of those. Number 2 is that you get weird compliments. So some guys will try to compliment women in kind of strange ways. And the reason they do this is because they're trying to make it look like they're not like actually hitting on you or whatever, because they don't want to be rejected. They don't want to look like they're needy. They don't want to, if they're friends with you and they're attracted to you and they're just kind of throwing out some bait there to see what happens, they don't want to end up losing their friendship or something like that over the fact that they're attracted to you. And so if he gives you some kind of weird compliment, he almost certainly likes you in a romantic way. And if I were you, I would just assume that that is true. By the way, if you're here right now and if you're watching this, make sure that you say hi in the chat and let us know where in the world you're watching this from. It's cool to see all the women from all over the world watching these live streams. So my suggestion is that you call out this behavior. If a guy gives you a weird compliment and you actually are attracted to him and you like him, what you can say is just first you accept it and then look at him and say, you like me, don't you? And then if you, whatever he says, if he kind of gets like nervous or whatever, and if you do like him, just say, it's okay. It's okay. I like it. Right. And basically all you're doing here is you're just giving him permission. You're letting him know that you like him too, and that it's okay. And it's fun, right? So it's fun. It's fun and flirty. You're just having fun. You're just flirting here. That's it. Number 3 is people seem genuinely confused when you put yourself down. So maybe you talk negatively about yourself. Maybe you do that thing where people do like self-deprecating humor or whatever. Well, if you do that and somebody's like, what is she talking about? Like, she's totally attractive, or she's not that weird, or she's, people don't think that way about you or whatever, right? Basically, you probably actually think some negative things about yourself, which a lot of people do, most people do, that other people don't think about you, right? Otherwise, they think great things about you, but you have all these kind of negative things that you have going on in your mind. And so here's what my suggestion is. If you're the kind of person that does do that and you experience these things, my suggestion is that you stop doing that completely and instead get into the habit of talking about yourself in a positive way and just talking yourself up and looking at the positive ways that you exist in this world, because that is actually even more attractive, and you'll actually feel better about yourself most likely as well. So number 4, let's get to number 4, is you like to laugh. So one of the most attractive things that a woman can do is she can be playful and fun and joking around and enjoying herself, right? Like it's really, really attractive, especially in this day and age. A lot of people aren't really enjoying themselves, or it's kind of, some people have kind of this fake, like friendly happiness thing going on, especially in the United States. And so if you actually enjoy yourself and you own that and you're having a good time, it's very possible that you're a lot more attractive than you realize. And so my suggestion is that you find more things to laugh about in your life. Find things you enjoy in your life. What's great in your life. Spend more time laughing. Spend more time just watching comedies and just getting yourself into a playful, fun, and enjoyable mood, because it's incredibly attractive. So number 5, what's number 5? And by the way, if you get what we're talking about here, say I get it in the chat. If you don't get what we're talking about, just ask me a question about it, or you can ask me any kind of question you want to, and I'll answer all the questions here at the end. So number 5 is that you don't receive compliments very well. And so people tell you that you're attractive and you shrug it off, or you reject what they're saying. And so this happens with a lot of people. I actually used to be this way, and I used to have a really hard time taking compliments because I had some self-esteem issues and whatnot. Although I've been working on them, they're a lot better now. And so here's my suggestion. Whenever someone gives you a compliment, just receive it fully. Just take it fully in. If you're not sure what to say, simply say thank you. And that's one of the best ways that you can receive a compliment. And that's actually even more attractive, is if you fully receive it and just allow it to come in. And if you don't, it actually tells everybody that there's something weird going on with you. So you don't want people thinking there's something weird, like bad weird going on with you. You want good weird, not bad weird. And speaking of weird, let's move on to number 6, which is that you have a unique fashion sense. And so unique taste is actually attractive because it makes you stand out from the crowd. It makes you different than other people, right? You have unique parts of your personality. And so my suggestion is that whenever you can find something that expresses your unique tastes, just wear it with pride and just bring out your personality whenever you can, and have your unique tastes on display, because it actually gives people things to kind of come over and start conversations with you about. And 2, it kind of displays some of your personality and makes people feel like there's something different and unique and interesting and special about you. So that's that. Number 7, we're going to go over number 7, and then I'm going to talk about something that's even just as important here. And so number 7 is you focus on signs or clues that people don't like you, and you do that way too much. So if you're always focusing on what people don't like about you, or how things didn't go right, or how someone isn't doing all the things that you want him to, right? He didn't message you, and you thought, well, it's the weekend and he's supposed to message you, and we were hanging out the other day and I thought things were special, but maybe he doesn't think things are special because he's not contacting me and it's the weekend, and all these things, right? Not only are you going to drive yourself completely insane, but you're going to put yourself in overthinking mode and all those kinds of things, but you're also going to miss out on the things that are actually great, the things that are good, the things that are awesome, the things that maybe people like about you, right? So oftentimes people who are attracted to each other, they will end up missing each other, right? Or they won't end up continuing to see each other after the first date or the second date or whatever, and they don't end up together because of one very simple thing: miscommunication, right? So you don't show interest, so he thinks that you don't like him. Miscommunication. He doesn't take you on the kind of date that you want, so you think that he's not really that into you, but he's doing that because he doesn't know what kind of a date you want, right? Or he thinks that this is the kind of date you're supposed to take somebody on, but you don't. And so you guys go your separate ways. Miscommunication. Or He doesn't text you as soon as you want him to. And so you think he's not really interested, but really he's just trying not to turn you off or do something screwed up and creep you out or make you think that he's too needy and desperate or whatever. And so all of a sudden you guys go your separate ways and don't get together. Missed communication, right? Communication is so vitally important. So here's my suggestion on what I think that you should do in these situations. And here's what it is. Shift your focus to one, people who appreciate you, care about you, and say good things to you, right? So you can fill up more of your life with that. Spend less time trying to chase down people that aren't that into you, that aren't giving you the time and attention and the things that you do want. And become more aware when someone is giving you compliments, appreciating you, caring about you, doing all those things, and start to appreciate those people. So it's kind of a 3-step thing here, right? Shifting your focus to the people and the situations and the things that are right, that are good, that are people and things that you appreciate and who appreciate you. 2 is becoming more aware when someone is doing those things. And then 3 is consciously remember to thank and appreciate someone when they do give you compliments. So that's it. If you have any questions about anything, put them in the chat. I'm going to go back over the signs real quickly one more time, and then I will get to your questions. So sign number 1 is people stare at you or look up when you walk past them. Sign number 2 is you get weird compliments, right? Sign number 3 is people genuinely, they seem confused about when you talk yourself down or put yourself down. Number 4 is you love to laugh. Number 5 is you don't receive compliments very well. Number 6 is you have a unique sense of fashion taste. Number 7 is you focus on signs or clues that people don't like you, and you do that way too often. All right, let's see what kind of questions and comments and stuff we have over here. Hello, hello, hello. Everybody's saying hello. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. Lugia, I'm totally butchering your name, says, I love your teachings. They all make sense. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad they make sense to you. If they didn't make sense, I would be incredibly concerned for my own welfare and what is going on with me. Also, make sure if you don't have my program yet, go visit theforeverwomanformula.com. I almost forgot to pitch my own program. It's free. You can go check it out for free. Go to theforeverwomanformula.com, watch the video there, and then you can sign up for the program for free. So go do that. Make sure you do that. So Lori says, I was staring at a man with a bunch of tattoos one time, and my ex slammed on the brakes and asked me if I needed a better look. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. All right. So lots of highs, lots of highs. Elaine says, I'm beautiful. That's awesome, Elaine. Hi, Matt from the Philippines. Hello. South Carolina, lots of people from all over the place. Let's see. Do we have any questions here? Lots of trues. True. Elaine says, I'm completely nuts but attractive to men. As soon as they get close, I push away because of my mental health issues. Well, okay. I don't know what to say about that. Carol says, you're right. So right on. Love the laughter. Absolutely. There you go. Linda says, how can I help get over my feelings of embarrassment over being dumped out of the blue, committed long-term relationship? So how can you get over your feelings of embarrassment over being dumped? Well, first, I think the thing that you want to recognize is that there's nothing really to be embarrassed about. You know, if you get dumped, I mean, kind of depends on what your situation is. How long were you guys together? I mean, really what you want to do is shift your focus more than anything else, right? You want to stop focusing on the fact that you're embarrassed, because what you focus on, you feel, and what you feel, you end up receiving. And so if you want to feel more embarrassed, just focus on embarrassment. If you want to feel excited about your life, focus on the things that are coming up in your life and the things that you want. If you want to feel love, focus on the ways that you are loving yourself and that you're giving to yourself, and the love that you have between other people in your life, whether it's with plants, animals, people, whatever creator you believe in, if you believe in one of those things. And so you want to shift the way that you focus. That's the number one thing that you want to do. Number two is you want to start getting busy doing other things in your life. And depending on how long you guys have been broken up, you probably want to go and start getting connected to some new people and some new situations. Hannah says, don't like fake friendly people. I don't like fake friendly people either. I don't like those fake friendly people. Yolanda is giving lots of virtual hugs away right now. So if you guys need a virtual hug, here's Yolanda and her hugs. I hope if you needed one, you got your virtual hug. Got your virtual hug. Amy says, it took me a long time to accept compliments. Yeah, it happens sometimes. Deb says, I'm weird and proud of it. Yeah, that's right. Weird power. That's what I'm talking about. Yep. Sylvia says, hello, guys. Hope you're all staying safe. I hope everybody's staying safe as well. That's an important thing to do, is stay safe. Doop-de-doop-de-doo. Misty says, I got told by a narcissist that me saying I am who I am was a very bad thing. Well, I guess it kind of depends on the context of when you're saying I am who I am. If you light somebody's car on fire, it explodes, and they're like, why would you do something like that? And you're like, I am who I am, right? That might be a problem. And so it's one of those things, it just kind of depends on what the scenario is as to whether it's a good or a bad thing. Doop-de-doop-de-doo. Let's see what Teresa says here. Teresa says, I am 64, but I don't look my age. My son is 46. His friends that are his age try to hit on me and admit they always had a crush on me when they were younger. Yep. That is something that's going on a lot right now. Carol says, I can get an apology out of the rudest person just by being nice back. Yes, being nice is a power. It is a superpower. If you do it well, it can be a great superpower. Autumn says, you are so right, Matt. By the way, you are so hot. Your girlfriend is so lucky. Well, sure, she'll be happy to hear that. Deb says, narcissists are people who just aren't happy with their own life and enjoy controlling others. They aren't worth my time. I move on from that negative energy. Yeah, you want to move on from that energy. If it comes at you, you just want to be like, psh, wah, yeah, do some like karate moves or whatever you have going on, right? And just fight that energy back out and be like, no thanks. God, was that nerdy? Was that nerdy? I don't know. Probably. All right, let's see what Michelle says. I wasn't fully open with a guy and he made assumptions. I'm like looking over. I like do the ninja right here. I wasn't fully open with a guy and he made assumptions. And then quickly, before I could really tell him, he pulled away because he didn't think it would work. Afraid one of us would get hurt. I now want to share with him. He is friendly, talking and on and off, and don't want to scare him, but open us both up to real potential. How do I know when he will be open enough to listen so I can fix the miscommunication on my part. I would stop trying to fix the miscommunication on your part is what I would do. And I would just be open with what's going on right now, right? Like stop thinking about like, oh, there's this thing that I'm trying to fix that we had this conversation about in the past. And instead just bring up new conversations and new dialogue instead of trying to make it about kind of fixing that thing. And how do you know when he'll be open enough? I don't know. How open of a conversation do you need to have? I mean, it kind of depends on the subject matter that you're talking about here, right? Like if it's something that's really kind of intimate and deep, that you just need to have a conversation where you kind of weave your way into that. And most people are at the point where they're either ready to have that conversation or they're pretty much never ready to have that conversation. And so you want to just be aware of that and just, have a normal flow of dialogue that goes into that direction, and don't worry about whether he's open enough to listen to it or not, because if he's not open enough, he's not going to be getting open enough to it anytime in the near future, most likely. I mean, I don't know for a fact. I'd have to know more about whatever it is that you're actually talking about here, because I'm just making tons of assumptions about things that you haven't really told me much about. So all right, so Marla says, if you have known a guy for 7 months and were hooking up with this guy for a while and it seemed like you were getting closer, but you haven't heard from him in over a week, is it best to just wait for him to text you first? He has told me not to take it personally if I don't hear from him because he just gets immersed in his work. But it's best not to text him, right? Well, it kind of depends, right? It depends on the flow of the conversation that you've had up until this point. If you've had conversations and he's always kind of moving forward and doing things and all that kind of stuff, and he's usually the one reaching out, it's not a problem if you reach out once in a while, right? It's not a big deal. What I say, generally speaking, is that if you can have like an 80-20 ratio or a 70-30 ratio where he's initiating conversations 70 or 80% of the time and you're initiating conversations 20 or 30% of the time, those are good ratio numbers. What you want to watch out for is getting past the point of 50% where you're initiating more than 50% of the conversations, because then all kinds of weird things can start happening there where you don't know where he is and what's going on with him from a mental and psychological standpoint. I will say as well, though, that I do not suggest that you just hook up with guys and not have some kind of framework of what you're trying to get into here. I have a program. It's called The Forever Woman, and you can get it at theforeverwomanformula.com. There should be a link above or below this video about that. And my suggestion is that you make sure that you're getting yourself into a good situation from the beginning, because, yeah, absolutely, you should be leaning back and you should be letting him kind of chase and pursue you as much as you can. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're getting yourself into a good situation. And it kind of worries me a little bit that you're like, I've known this guy for 7 months and we were hooking up, right? And you're not talking about him doing anything else other than hooking up with you, which if you are, then you can't have any expectations about anything that he does. And you're just going to have to do whatever you want to do and hope it ends up working out, because you're, lost in relationship limbo and you have no idea whether this is going anywhere or it's not. And I suggest you don't do that ever in any situation. And if you want to make sure you're getting in a good situation, get a copy of my program. You can get it for free at theforeverwomanformula.com. So Shadowed says, so when I get weird compliments about my art from my friend Matt, that means he likes me. It's possible. It's very, very possible that he likes you and that he's saying it like that because he doesn't want to directly say things to you. And if you're attracted to him, I mean, here's my suggestion. For almost every dude that is talking to you and friends with you and is generally in conversations with you and your friends, my suggestion is that you just assume that they like you, because they probably do. They're probably attracted to you. They probably like you in a romantic way. Many of them are probably settling for not being in a romantic kind of situation with you because they're worried that they're going to get rejected and that maybe they're not really good enough for you, and all kinds of other things, and they still want to be around you. And so absolutely, he probably likes you. I mean, there's a really high probability chance. And so if you're attracted to him, the way that you build up that conversation, you can start kind of shifting the conversation from friendship to romance. I had a conversation with a client not too long ago where this was her situation. She was in a situation where she was in this friendship with this guy, and she wanted it to go somewhere past kind of friendship and into romance. And one of the ways to do that is to call it out and to call him out and to put kind of the onus on him and make it seem, and call out his attraction. Because when you do that, all of a sudden it gives him permission to start opening up and start having conversations with you, where he starts being more romantic because he knows that you're interested now. Joanne says, I always get nice compliments. Awesome. So Misty says, very true, Deb. I learned that very soon with him and walked away, but due to him, I was able to do a lot of soul searching and figured out who I really am. I love myself for who I am now. That is awesome to hear. I love to hear that. Deb says, thank you so much for your advice. You are absolutely welcome. Lujita says, thank you for sharing your awesomeness and your authenticity. You are welcome. You are absolutely welcome. Ellie says, how do I start a conversation regarding how I feel about the guy I'm seeing? We are spending more time together and feel a real connection. So it depends on what you mean by that, right? Like, a lot of times what women mean when they say, how do I tell him how I feel, is they want to do this kind of dump, right? And that is not a conversation that you want to have, right? Instead, you want to kind of smooth things in and allow him to start getting more attracted, and for him to start trying to open up about himself, and for that kind of world to merge together like this. Because if you're a lot more attracted to him than he is to you, and you start opening up, what's going to happen is you're going to start feeling more invested. And the only challenge with that is that if he's not that invested yet and he's not that interested yet, and you're just spewing out everything that you're in love with him, and you think that you'd have the best babies of his ever, and you want to get married, and you want to lock him down and have a white picket fence, and you want to have 30 babies and live on a farm, and all that kind of thing, right? And that's like the conversation that you're talking about having right now. You might want to slow down a little bit, right? Just chill out, slow down, let things progress a little bit more and a little bit more. And instead of trying to have a conversation where you can spew out your guts about how you feel about him, just, connect with him in different ways and let it come out through compliments, through appreciation, through things like that, right? Through connecting with him in ways so that it builds, instead of kind of throwing it. The metaphor that I have for this is throwing a giant log onto a itty bitty fire, right? If you're trying to throw a giant log onto an itty bitty fire, you're just going to smother it. And instead, what you want to do is you want to grow it, and you want to build it up, and you want to give it twigs and leaves and little sticks and stuff like that until it grows and grows and grows and grows. And then at some point it can get really, really big. And it's fine if you start having conversations like that, because you're not going to put it out anymore. But if you're not at the point where you're having conversations like that, you want to build it up slowly, because otherwise you might end up freaking them out and kind of tipping the the weights, right, of power in the relationship, which I know when a lot of people hear that word, they like freak out and they're like, no power, but every relationship has a power dynamic to it, whether you like to believe so or not, right? And your power is basically your ability to get whatever it is that you want. And the more invested you are in the situation, the less of a power that you have in that situation if they aren't the same amount invested, right? So if you're really invested and he's kind of like, I'm not really sure that I want to be in this, I'm not even sure if I want to be swimming with this woman yet, right? You jump in the pool and he's like on the edge and he's hanging out there and you're like, hey, I'm swimming around, right? And he hasn't jumped in, right? All of a sudden he's like, well, what if he wants to go somewhere else? Or if he's like, I don't know if I even want to go in this pool, right? And then you're like totally committed to it and he's already gone. And so you don't want to be in that situation. You want to have a situation where you both get over to the edge and you put your feet in and, you kind of get in and then, you're swimming around a little bit and then you guys are in, right? You're in together and it's really easy to have those conversations then. And so you want to do it slowly. That's my suggestion. Joanne says, thank you for your message today. You are absolutely welcome. Misty says, love your advice. Well, I am very grateful for that. Anjana says, in India, things are different. Have any idea how men behave here? Well, I think that there's some things that are innate to human biology, right? There's masculine, male biology. And if you're working with a man who's got male biology, there's certain things that are absolutely innate that all men have all over the world, right? And then there's some things that are cultural things where men do certain things a little bit differently because they are in a cultural setting. And so there are absolutely differences for sure. No doubt about it. I've spent some time in India before and I've hung out with Indian people and there's definitely some different things going on over in India for sure. But there's also some things that are absolutely the same because they're men and you're women and there's a lot of biological things that are absolutely the same. So Facebook anonymous user says, how do you keep a long distance relationship fresh amid the beer virus, the beer bug? Well, I'm just going to call it the beer bug from now on because I'll get demonetized if I call it out by name. And so what you want to do, so first off, I just made a video. One of my last live streams was all about long distance relationships and long distance situations. And there's a lot to be said about that. I have an entire program about it. It's called Long Distance Allure. You can get it at my website at commitmentconnection.com. And so there's a lot to be said about it. I suggest you go and watch that video. I'm going to be doing some more live streams here pretty soon about long distance situations and relationships. So just look for that. So Marissa says, hi, I'm confused why guys show interest and then just disappear, stop texting or calling. Everything is great and then it just stops. I don't get it. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the situation. It depends on the guy. Could be a lot of different things. It could be one. So one of the things is that he might not think that you're really that interested in him. So one of the things I talked about earlier in the video was this miscommunication thing. Right. And miscommunication thing is a big thing in dating because a lot of times what will happen is women will hear this thing. They're like, oh, lean back. Right. And so they lean all the way back and they're like falling out of their chair. And the guy's like, is she even interested? She doesn't seem like she's paying any attention. She doesn't seem like she cares that much. And unless he's a super confident guy who's like, every woman's into me. Right. He might not continue to try to move forward, right? So there's different ways that guys test, right? Because guys aren't confidence machines. Guys have insecurities, they have issues, they're afraid of rejection. And so if a guy is interested in you and you're not showing him that you're interested in him in a way that makes sense to him, he might not continue to pursue you because he doesn't want to end up in the friend zone. And so if a guy feels that way, he might decide to pull away and just disappear because he didn't think you were that interested. And I hear that from women all the time. There's a thing that I talk about in the Forever Woman formula. I think it's in the advanced program, where I talk about attainability. And attainability is all about making sure that a guy understands that you still like him, right? Because what ends up happening is a lot of times when women take my materials, they take it to the extreme, right? And I was just talking about like the 80-20, like 70-30 communication. Well, a lot of women will take it to a 100-0, and they're like, I'm not contacting this guy ever, right? And so he's like, she never puts any effort into contacting me. I don't think she's that into me, right? And so he's like, well, I don't want to end up in the friend zone. And so he'll end up just leaving the situation and finding somebody else because he doesn't want to end up stuck in the friend zone, because that sucks for guys. It's like one of their biggest fears. And so that's one of the reasons. Another reason is his own insecurity. A guy might have his own insecurities where he is just like he thinks that he's not worthy of you, or he screwed up. He feels like maybe he can't really handle you or deal with you, or he doesn't think that he's financially in a situation where he can provide for you and take you out on dates and spend money on you. And if he feels like it's going to cost a lot of money to be with you, and he's like trying to build his life and build his business, build his work or whatever, he might pull away because he's like, I can't afford this woman. I'd love to date her and be with her, but I simply am not able to afford her. And so I'm just going to go and be single until, because women are expensive. Right. And so that's what a lot of guys will think. That there's a lot of other things that could be going on there. Another one has to do with cultural things. So it could be, I get women all the time that are like, oh, guy ghosted me for 3 or 4 days, right? Or a guy ghosted me for 5 days, where they don't realize that for a lot of people, that's normal dating behavior, where they don't contact somebody and go out on a date with them once a week. Right. And so that might be normal behavior. You think he's pulling away. You think he's disappearing. He's just like, oh, I've got things that are going on in my life. I'm a busy person. And so I'll see her again in a week or whatever. And so he might just have a completely different mindset about dating and relationships than you have. And so he's just in his head, he's like, hey, this is what's going on. He's thinking, I don't want to screw it up with her, right? Because he doesn't want to come off as needy or too into you and then freak you out, and you end up not being that interested in him, right? And so he might be trying to play it cool, but you're interpreting it as him not being interested in you. So that's another huge thing that can happen. Another one has to do with hormones. So if you have gotten intimate with a guy, sometimes guys kind of disappear and pull away after getting physically intimate together because they have their testosterone actually goes down, and they don't feel that drive to pursue and go after and get physically intimate with you again. And so they get distracted with other things, and you don't become their priority anymore. And they're just focused on other things until they start pulling that drive back up, and they're like, oh my God, where's that beautiful woman that I was talking to, Marissa? Oh, I liked her so much. And then he contacts you and you yell at him because it's been 5 days and you feel like you've been treated badly, and he thought that it was just a normal situation. And so, that's another thing is that a lot of guys know that if they don't contact you within a certain period of time, and all women have different kind of time frames that they feel like a man should be contacting them after a date. And if you don't contact him if he doesn't contact you during that certain period of time, most guys realize that most women are going to freak out on them and yell at them and be like, right? And so if he feels like it's been too long, he might just be like, you know what? I don't even care. I liked her, but I don't like her enough to get yelled at. And so if he thinks that you're the kind of woman that will yell at him and freak out when he comes back, then he might not come back. And that's one of the reasons why I tell women that if you want to connect with a guy and he pulls away, when the time to have the conversation about him pulling away is not when he comes back. That is not when you want to have that conversation. You want to welcome him back and make him feel like being away from you is worse than being with you. And you may want to make him feel like coming back to you is better than staying away from you. Those are the feelings that you want him to have. And you can't make him feel that way if he comes to you and you start yelling at him and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe that's more information than you wanted to hear. However, those are some of the reasons why guys will just disappear, stop texting and calling, all that kind of thing. Even if they show that they like you and they're really interested in you, there's a whole plethora of reasons why he might not kind of continue seeing you or trying to date you or any of that kind of stuff. And so you want to be aware of those, and some of the ones that you can do things about, there's things you can do about, and some of the ones that you can't. And so, and there's also one where he's just not there. He felt that way in the moment, but long term, maybe he didn't see you as long-term relationship material or something like that, or somebody that he'd want to be with long-term, or your values weren't aligned, or maybe there was a deal breaker there that he saw and he was like, oh yeah, I really like her, but because he's got his own issues too, right? Men sabotage themselves just like women sabotage themselves, right? And good guys will be like, they'll look at a woman who's just amazing and they'll be like, well, she's great, except, there's this like thing that she does, where she like kind of snaps her fingers every once in a while, and that like drives me crazy. I can't tell you how many dumb things I've heard from guys where they've like been like, well, this woman, she was really great, but I saw her toes. And then after I saw her toes, I couldn't date her anymore. I mean, how can you date a woman with those kinds of toes, and you're just like, oh my God, dude, what? Okay, man, whatever. Right. And women do that as well. Right. Everybody does that. And so it's just one of those things. I mean, there could be there's a laundry list of reasons why he might tell you that he really likes you and then just disappear and not talk to you anymore, right? There could be other things too, right? Like work issues. I mean, there could be other priorities that end up taking over, and he's just like, this is more important than hanging out and talking to her. Carolyn says, I have gone through a lot of emotional abuse and hurt due to my husband cheating and lying throughout my marriage. I don't know how to be attractive to others, especially males, so that they compliment me. Well, first off, I would be, there's a whole bunch of different things going on there. And really, more than anything, what you need to do is you need to heal, and you need to work on yourself, and you need to shift whatever your mindsets are and your beliefs are. I talk about this in detail in the Forever Woman program. You can get it at theforeverwomanformula.com. That's something that you should listen to over and over and over again. I have a thing where I talk about belief systems in there, and that specifically, my suggestion is that you listen to that over and over and over and over again, so that you get those beliefs ingrained in your mind, and that you emotionalize them and you say them over and over and over, right? And you start looking for evidence that guys are interested in you, and you stop making about guys complimenting you, right? Because compliments are just one way of a guy showing that he's attracted to you. There's a huge list of them, right? The most important one to you might be compliments, right? Because your love language is words of affirmation. And so you're just like, I need men to compliment me. But it might be that he's doing other things to show that he's interested in you. Like he's spending time with you and you're one-on-one, and he's really engaged and he's asking you questions and all this stuff, but you're blocking that out, and you're like, oh, well, he's not complimenting me, so he's not interested in me, when in reality, he is interested in you, but he's just not complimenting you. And so you're not recognizing the fact that he is interested in you. And so my suggestion is that you open yourself up to other possibilities that a guy might be interested in you in other ways. And if you want specifically guys to start complimenting you, guys that you're seeing to start complimenting you, there's other ways that you can do that. The number one way is through appreciating him and appreciating or just saying things, right? Like one of the things that I've said on some of my live streams, which it kind of cracks me up, right, is I'll say things like, you know what, I really like compliments. And then next thing you know, there'll be the chat over here will be like filled with women saying compliments to me. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I love compliments. Like, thank you so much. Right. And when it's literally the same thing. Like if you are talking to a guy and you're just like, you know what thing I really love is I love to get compliments. It's like one of my favorite things in the world, right? And then just leave it there and move on to another subject and don't even talk about it anymore. He will get the message in his mind. And if you're not expecting it and you're not trying to force him to do it or anything like that, then he'll become a lot more open to it, and he might start doing it in ways that you want him to do, because he knows now that you really like compliments, or if a guy does compliment you, you can appreciate him for that and all kinds of stuff like that, right? I go over that in great detail in my Love Frames Toolkit program. So anonymous Facebook user says, what do you do if your husband makes you feel unimportant? My suggestion is that you have a real conversation with him. So if you're in a marriage, if you're married to each other and your husband makes you feel unimportant, it could be a whole bunch of different things, right? One, it could be that he doesn't know that he's making you feel unimportant. And there's certain things that he's doing that triggers you feeling unimportant, and he doesn't know that. And so you want to have conversations with him about that, so he's aware of what makes you feel unimportant and what makes you feel important. The next thing that I suggest that you do is spend time making yourself feel important, because that is as important as your husband making you feel important. Because if you make yourself feel important and you feel great and you're constantly like looking for ways that you are important, and you're doing things for yourself that make you feel important, and it's really easy to make you feel important, it won't even become as big of a deal for you whether he does or doesn't make you feel important in those certain kinds of situations. There's other things that you can do too, right? Like reframing what he's doing and finding out, like just having conversations with him, right? Like, so for instance, if you have a conversation with him and he does something and it makes you feel unimportant, right? Like, let's say, for instance, that something that you need in order to feel important is for him to take your dish, your plate after you're done eating, and for him to take that from you and to go wash it off, right? And he doesn't do that, and so you feel unimportant. Well, if you have a conversation with him about that, and you're like, yeah, you know what, and he's like, oh, I had no idea, like that didn't even register to me. I think you're incredibly important, and that didn't have any reflection on that, and I'll do that whenever I can think of it and whatever, right? You can reframe that in your mind instead of trying to force him to do it. It's like, well, that might not actually mean that I'm not important, right? If you reframe the fact that, taking a dish might have nothing to do with your importance at all, right? And that your importance actually comes from a feeling within yourself, and that he definitively isn't maliciously trying to make you feel unimportant. It can actually be really powerful for you to kind of break those ideas of what makes you feel unimportant. That way you're not feeling unimportant when he does things, and instead you don't get your importance from external sources or your feelings of importance from external sources, and instead you get it from yourself. And again, a great way to kind of ingrain this stuff in your mind is to get the Forever Woman formula. And I talk in detail about belief systems that you need in order to feel like you're an important, valuable, amazing woman. And so you might need to, I talk all about, shifting beliefs and things like that in there as well. And so that's a really powerful thing that you can do. And like I said, the program's free. My suggestion is that everybody gets it. It works with women who are married, who are single, who are, in all kinds of different situations. So I suggest you go and check that out. So Amy says, hello, Matt. Well, hello, Amy. Thanks for the hello. Joanne says, when men give me compliments, sometimes I begin to wonder what their motivation is. What is their motivation? I'm gracious, but try not to be too encouraging. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want them to be, hitting on you, it would, right? It would. See, at least, Joanne, you are aware of it, right? Like, you are aware of the fact that these guys might have other motivations, romantic motivations, because they are giving you compliments. So absolutely. 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 Let's see if we have any other questions here. Quick questions. So Marla's clearing things up. If you have known a guy for 7 months and have been hooking up and it's over a week, oh, I think we already answered that question. Yes, I did. So Shauna, this isn't a quick question, but I will answer it in a quickish kind of way. Shauna says, how do I communicate effectively when he hurt me by cheating, and how do we move on from this point? Well, it kind of depends on what kind of a relationship you guys have right now, right? If you guys are in a relationship, which I'm just going to assume that you are, the there's a lot of different problems here, right? First, the problem is that you are if you're really dedicated to this, and he's really dedicated to making things work, and it sounds like that he was cheating and that it's open. And so the best thing that you can do in a real relationship is have a real conversation about this. And moving on from this point, he has to be here. If I were you, this is what my criteria would be for even thinking about continuing to have any kind of a relationship with this guy at all. First off, I would absolutely address this, and I would address it powerfully, and I would address it matter-of-factly and have a real conversation about it, and not let it go without having a real conversation about it. And making sure that he knows that it's not only that it's not that it hurt you, but that it's completely not acceptable behavior, and that if he ever does anything like that again, that you love him and that you care about him, but that you're not going to put up with it, and that you value yourself too much, and that you're going to walk away from this situation if you even think that something like this is happening again. And my suggestion is that you get a full commitment from him, right? He's already cheated on you, which is a huge problem, but get a full commitment from him that he is fully committed to making this relationship work, and that he's never going to do anything like that again. And if he doesn't, then my suggestion is that you don't stay with this guy. And because that's what you want. You want a guy that's fully committed and that is going to apologize and own up to the fact that he did something that wasn't healthy or good, or that hurt you, that is destructive to the relationship, that's something that's not going to happen again, right? And it probably will, right? Something like this will probably end up happening again, because people have patterns, and if he cheated on you one time, he's probably going to cheat on you again. And so people can change, right? But most people don't. The people that do usually change are people that are very dedicated to their own personal growth and development. And the people that don't change are people that aren't. And so you want to look at that, and get it, have a clear, strong conversation about the fact of what happened. Make sure that he's owning it and taking responsibility for it. Make sure you have a communication, not only about how it hurt you, but how you believe that you're a valuable woman and you're not going to put up with it ever again. And if it does happen ever again, or you think it's happening ever again, that you're walking out of the relationship, and value yourself enough that you will walk out of it. Let him know that you love him and that you care about him and that you want to be together with him and that you want to have a great relationship with him, but that you're just not going to put up with this because this is beneath you. It's beneath him. It's beneath what you're willing to be in terms of a relationship. And then make sure that he verbally commits to the fact that he'll never ever do that again with you. And if he's willing to do that, then you can give him another try. If he's not willing to do that, I would suggest that you don't ever meet up with him again, and just don't, just break up and go on your way. Otherwise, you're just going to be in a abusive situation where you're hurting a lot and he's apologizing a lot, and that's not a situation that anybody really wants to be in, and I don't think it's a situation that you should be in. So most women who come to me because they want to attract a man who loves them and sees them and cherishes them into a committed, lasting relationship. They want to turn the situation that they're in around and get into a situation where the guy commits to them and cherishes them and makes them a priority and absolutely loves them. But we have a huge problem where we're in this world of the hookup culture, where guys aren't committing, where guys are pulling away and disappearing. Guys are making up lots of excuses. It's become the norm for men and women to just hook up. A lot of women aren't committing either. A lot of women aren't getting into relationships either. They're just doing the hookup culture thing. And that's fine, but what ends up happening is a lot of women end up feeling confused. They doubt themselves, they doubt their own self-worth and their own value, and many of them feel like they just want to give up. And if you're having a hard time with men and dating right now and relationships, it's really not your fault. We live in a culture that encourages just crazy things like superficial relationships, like, hooking up with lots of people all at the same time. They discourage anything that's really meaningful. There's kind of a war on relationships and marriage and kind of real connection right now. And in some ways, that's a good thing, because men are craving and they're absolutely starved for real connections. And in some of the ways, it makes things really, really difficult. And I believe that there's a better way for men and women to get into and stay in committed relationships that last. And that's why I put together a proven path that will help you get into the relationship you want. Here's what it is. You have to believe in your own value. You have to position yourself in value, and you have to communicate your value. And if you do those three things, you will put yourself in the best possible situation, whether you're single and you're dating right now, or whether you're in a relationship or you're in a kind of casual situation. You want to do these things so that you put yourself into the best possible situation that you can be. And you can do this with my new program. It's called The Forever Woman. You can get it at theforeverwomanformula.com. There's a link below or above, depending on where you're watching this, or you can go to theforeverwomanformula.com. Watch the video there, get the program that's there, and you can get it for free. So go check it out. Go watch the video, sign up for the program. Go over the program multiple times and start using it. It's helped tons of women get into great situations. We've had women getting married, turning their marriages around, getting back with exes, all kinds of different situations, getting from casual to committed relationships by using the stuff that's in this program. So my suggestion is that you go get it. Thank you so much for being here with me today. We have some of the most beautiful, amazing, awesome women in the world in our community. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that you are willing to have me on your journey to finding and getting into and creating and building the relationship of your dreams. So thank you so much for that. I love you, and I will speak with you soon. And always remember, you are worth it. So that's it, and I will speak with you soon.